All right, so today I get to talk to you about Flow Connect and the strategy moving forward for the product. But when I talk to you today, I'm going to also ask for your input. I need some help in deciding what the future of this product line is. Now, we have the next couple of quarters, which I'll show planned out, what we plan to deliver inside of Flow Connect. But really, we want to put the future in your hands today. We've listened to a lot of your feedback, and what we've tried to do is draw some mock-ups of what we think that future could look like. Now, it doesn't mean it's the definition of our future, but the hope is here that you'll see the information and ultimately decide on which path you think is correct. So we'll go through those items, but at the end of this, we'll also talk about one of the main questions, which is decommissioning of Flow Classic. I know that's a big question for most of our customers, and we'll make sure to answer that today. So our roadmap, it's a lot of text, but I think what's important to note is that Q3 and Q4 still primarily focus on giving you the features that you may lack between the two products. So as an example, we look at giving some new connectors inside of Q4. That could be the SFTP connector, and we're also thinking about a generalized ODBC connector for some of our M3 customers who are still using database connections. Also, the Gantt and scheduler are planned to come in Q4. Now with that, the reason they haven't been released is because we need to support multi-time zones across different regions, which isn't usually the case for our European customers. But for the US-based customers who use these portlets, we need to support multiple time zones in an individual country. We also think a lot about the navigation and user step controls, which is going to start leading me into some of the presentation I'll show you today. Now, after we finish that feature set, we need to start focusing on runtime on-premise. We want to be able to execute these applications in an on-prem scenario for our customers who have latency requirements or just general connectivity issues. We also need to focus on customers who have security requirements. And we call that flowing local, which you'll see here in Q1 of next year. Now the thinking is past Q1, we need to ask you what we should do. I know everyone likes to take pictures of this slide. I also will say all of the same information that I have right here is generally publicly available as well. So we post this on our roadmaps that are publicly accessible at any point. All right, so let's talk about a few options. We've heard some feedback, and now we have a few mocks to present what we believe that vision could look like. You're gonna see a lot of options in front of you today. I'm gonna help you paint a little story, and then what I need from you all is to have your phones available for a Mentimeter and helping us decide which option might be the best. Now, the first portion of feedback we heard from you is that it takes too long to get started as a first-time user of Flow. Connecting to the data is pretty simplistic, but turning it into something usable requires many manual steps and technical know-how. So, I also saw up here what our uses of AI are going to be in the future. We know that most of the applications that are generating low-code apps are built on AI now. We envision a process where, and that process may be getting started with Flow Connect, where it asks you something like your ERP system. Now, once it asks you that ERP system, maybe it's also going to ask you for some documents. Let's think about what those documents could be. They could be documents that are workflows that you've drawn out of your processes. It could be the mock that was just shown of Portal, for example, that was hand drawn. It could be projection APIs, JSON specifications. You could give it almost all the information you think it might need for a workflow. And our hope would be that the AI can help you generate modules, data models, and templates for that. So instead of you having to draw all this up from scratch, we want to be able to easily onboard you into the system. Now, I use these terms templates and I use data modules. I've used those quite a bit today. The modules are those FlowScript modules. The templates are things that you find on the marketplace. The next piece of feedback we received is that building apps from scratch feels a bit repetitive. If we had smarter templates and guidance, we could focus on the unique business needs instead of reinventing the basics. So generally what I hear from this comment is that you all want to be able to focus on adding new things to applications that already exist. And here I'll talk a little bit about what we could do, but one option is that we can spend a lot more time investing in our marketplace applications, in our templates. If you look right here, we could build out hundreds of thousands of templates connected to different ERP systems as ways of quickly utilizing applications. We could also build out easier ways of using user step elements within an application. So what might that look like? We may increase our user step elements to include things like maps, better the tables. And then what we can do is make smart assessments of what you may want to configure within those functional blocks here. I think this is where most people start to think about low code versus high code. So as an action here, we could have templates off to the left. Those templates could be dragged in and it could help you start an application. In this use case here, this internal transportation application could ultimately have things like a list selection and a map already pre-canned for you, something to start with versus building new. But we can also enable customers to access a wide range of functional blocks, much more capabilities. We could provide you a Kanban inside of the web client. We could have more charting capabilities inside of the mobile device. These are options for us. We could significantly expand our capabilities within the low-code world. Now, just because we expand those doesn't mean we can't incorporate AI into development, right? What we foresee in this future, if we go down this path, is that we would take something like AI Copilot and help support the configuration of these steps. So, as an example, Malin just showed the map portlet up here, right? If we take that same map concept and move it to the web client or possibly the Android or iOS client, we could use AI to help us configure those elements. Maybe it puts in markers that are pre-processed here and give us color choices. There's a lot of options, but the hope would be that AI would help you onboard to that functional block much quicker. And we could use dynamic UI to make these views quite a bit more flexible. Here is something we refer to as a card layout, which is ongoing in the company for some time. And that card layout could look a little something like this, where I have a map portlet up top, and then the card with capabilities like showing bold titles, pills within those applications, even some text and maybe some date formats. But the hope here would be that we have ready-made layout options for typical scenarios so that configuring these becomes quick and easy. Once again, we want to use AI to help generate and ultimately help us configure these applications so you don't have to do it yourself. In this example, we may upload something like that warehouse map and have it automatically configure the user step. Now, you've provided us additional feedback. This feedback says that developers build workflow logic using predefined elements, and that could be complex to learn. I don't disagree with that. You know, I'm not a developer by nature. I struggle quite a bit with configuring some of our steps from time to time, referencing our documentation and coming back and developing the app. Our hope here is that AI will play a big role in this in the future. What we can do is we can use those AI prompts to help us generate logic. So not only are we configuring front end through AI, we want to build the same back end items through AI. In this example here, we say generate a picking rule. We want urgent orders to be the highest priority and always override other orders. Natural language. And what we want to have happen is the workflow process behind the scenes change based on what I told it. So here it would process and give us some new logic that checks the priority through an assertion step or a decision step, and then routes appropriately through FlowScript. And we've also heard that we could update our UI. We hear a lot about end users needing to be guided from the right actions. This one I stick with quite a bit. I think what I find is that there's a difference between complexity and simplicity. And the question is, which route do we want to go? Do we want to be simple by nature and be very workflow oriented, or do we want nice, beautiful screens? I think we can provide somewhere in between. I also think we can provide both. So we want to be able to navigate a user. Mio came on board. Mio talked a little bit about how easy it was to onboard a new sales rep, right? That's our bread and butter. We find that we have the most value in getting our end users onboarded to Novacura Flow relatively quick. And as we add new UI elements such as this, it can be overwhelming from time to time for a new user. Someone who comes from a flip phone and now is on an iOS device, that's a lot of information to consume. But I do think it adds to the visuals, that it makes it look a little bit better. So our hope here is that we are able to provide more flexible UI elements, again, ultimately getting tailored through AI services. And here, the example says, I need 3 KPI cards, and I want them to show productivity metrics. It also says, I want to have a favorite selection for the most task categories, and I want to be able to filter those. And all of this would be defined in the front end for you, using those functional blocks. And what it can do is tailor in much nicer UIs than what you're probably familiar with today in Classic, using some of those functional blocks. The last one, which I think is where we start to tend into the world of high code, is that your creativity is limited by Novacura Flow. The visual elements and options that we have don't support you on what you want to develop. Now, I think we can start to unleash some of this imagination that our customers and partners want to build through the use of AI. I do believe that Ola and Malin showed this really well, where we can start to build high code and make it low code. That might look a little something like this, where now you come into Flow Connect, and instead of knowing what you want to build, you give it a query. That query just says the same exact thing that you saw above. I needed an app with 3 KPI cards. I wanted to do X, Y, and Z. And on top of that, I want to add a gradient background from purple to pink and place pink badges on the top right corner. Natural language. And out of that, what you get is a simplistic view of your application. But how do I get here? Behind the scenes, you can go from what we have as visual mode to code view. And that code view, we don't know if this is HTML, Angular. We have no idea. Doesn't matter right now. The fact is that we're going to build front-end applications through high coding capabilities using natural language and large language models. So when we put this in front of you all, What we think is there's three options that we can go with. One, I should say there's three options we can go with. It doesn't mean that we are taking one option over another. We can take all three options. But what matters is which one we go for first. So option one could be to jumpstart projects by giving an extensive library of applications. That's an option. We've started that. We've done the marketplace. It has over 100 applications today. Maybe we should invest time in building that out significantly more. Option two, we can build workflows with a wider range of functional blocks. So what I like to talk about here is this capability. So we're talking about adding new low-code user steps into Flow in a significant amount. You know, today we have 26 core elements. We could expand that significantly. And last but not least is this option of unleashing the creativity, giving you a blank canvas, but then asking you to do some custom coding. And I think this one, you know, it gives the best UI results, but also comes with the most complex processes, right? Okay, so like Łukasz, we have a Mentimeter. We do have a Mentimeter. And that Menti, I'd ask you to log in. If you go to Menti and go menti.com and you use the code 23454945. Let's see. All right. Tell me if, okay, you guys are already on second question and I'm not even on the first. So that's good to know. Yeah. Let me ask you, did you guys get the first question here, which says, which option do you most prefer on a scale 1 to 5? Yeah? No, you did not. That's good. Okay. Let's switch this up then. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you guys see this question here or no? Not today?
You should go to, come back to browser maybe.
Let me switch sides. Hold on. Looks like it's going. There you go. Okay. Can you guys see this question now, hopefully? Yeah. Crushing it. Yep. That's going super well. Yeah, okay. That is, there we go. Maybe a little bit better. All right, so this question is, on a scale of 1 least to 5 most, how valuable would each of those UI improvement options be for your application design? So the question is, high customization, more user step elements, and more templates. Once again, when you're responding to this question, please remember, it's just saying which one's more valuable to you. It doesn't mean we're gonna do one over the other. It's which adds more value today if you get access to it. High code, it looks like, is the lead right now. Okay? Now with that high code question, we did need to ask the next one, which is going to work, I think. Okay. Next one is the Android web client or iOS. Okay, so heavy web client, some Android, iOS, and some Windows client. And the reason we ask this question is because we do want to understand what type of language we should use to generate this code. Very nice. You guys all answered correctly, by the way. Great job. Yeah, it was just a test. All right, let's talk about flow sunsetting now. Tough questions will come at the end of this one, but I think one of the most important topics we try to get through today is the decommissioning or the sunsetting of our old product line. So, a few years ago, we started down this process of Flow Connect. We have the ability now to take nearly almost all of our customers over to this product line. There are a few missing features that we've talked about today, but for the most part, all of these features will be coming within the next quarter. So because of that, we feel it's appropriate time to talk a little bit about when we will decommission the product. Now, every one of our products has a 2-year lifespan. That lifespan is coming up for Flow Classic on 6/15. I know there are still some customers out here that are on unsupported versions, but 6/15 ends in about November for our 2-year maintenance. Now, what we're going to do for our customers is we're going to extend that support. That same support that you're getting on Flow Classic now, we are not taking away. It's going to be there. We are extending that up until the end of 2026. So the same maintenance plan you're under, you will get the same support from us. We will continue to fix bugs all the way to the end of next year. Then we will have restricted support. Now, the total time period here for this is going to be about 24 months in total. Restricted support will still allow us to do some fixes. However, it won't be the same support that's under Flow Classic today. Our standard support allows us to make bug fixes and corrections. Restricted will just be that, a little bit more restrictive on what we're capable of fixing for our customers. Now, we're doing this because we also are working right now on Flow Connect in the runtime on-premise capabilities, and we do know that some of our customers require this. Now, Flow Connect Edge, which is the runtime on-premise, will be delivered in about end of Q3 of next year. This will allow our customers to still stay on that restricted support and be able to convert over into runtime on-prem if they need it. So in total, that extended support is going to last 15 months from today. So there's still the ability to stay on Classic. And after that, a total of 24 months once we get to restricted support. So until we, quote unquote, kill off the product, we have another 2 years of life on the product. That said, I would say for most of our customers that the extended support is where you want to fall into. The restricted support is going to be not too dissimilar from a customer today who might be running 6.14 or earlier versions. We won't be able to make as many fixes to that product as you think. So the thinking is that under restricted support, we may be able to fix real issues like 0-day issues, problems within security breaches that might happen, right? But there won't be many changes in under restricted. Now, the restricted support means that we are only supporting the on-premise installations. That said, Flow Classic for our cloud-based customers don't have access to that restricted support. So our cloud-based customers will need to transition to Flow Connect within the 15-month time frame. For the on-premise customers, they have the additional 9 months to make the move. And this is ultimately because of the runtime on-premise feature. So again, for these on-premise edge system, we'll have a solution. That solution will be available in Q3. I want to be very clear in this statement that right now the plan is to deliver runtime on-premise. which means the execution of the mobile applications will be behind your firewalls. The design time will continue to stay in the cloud. And we do this for a reason, but partly because we're trying to use some of the benefits of the cloud, things like the AI services to help us build these applications. These are all cloud-based services. Makes it tough to put it behind your firewalls and still allow communication to this. Now, there are a lot of talks about what runtime on-premise is or could be. We ask that you guys find us throughout the day. We'll talk a little bit more in detail. If you're interested in runtime on-prem, we can have that conversation. Okay, so that is the communication for the sunsetting of the product. I need to ask some blunt questions now. So the question of when you heard about the Classic sunset, what were your initial thoughts? Was it expected, unexpected? How concerned are you that you can't make the move in 2 years? Guys, the right answer here is excited, by the way. If you guys forgot the rest, so it's that one. Okay, next one. What's your biggest concern now about moving to Flow Connect? Okay. Luckily, the performance and latency concerns, I can tell you, those are easily addressed. We could set up an organization for any of the customers who do have those concerns, put a connector together, and there's no commitment to that, meaning you can test how quick communication works between the cloud-based systems and maybe your on-premise systems or other cloud-based services. And the benefit there would be that you can test out the applications, how quickly they perform, super simply, and you could still go back to Classic. So we don't actually need to move apps to Connect. Once we do run Connect, they connect to the same backend systems as Flow Classic, so those two can run in parallel. We'll take all of these pieces of feedback and respond to them. Okay, in one word, can you sum up your feelings on the timeline that we offered to go to Flow Connect? Bold. I like that word. Yeah. The emoji. Very cool. And last question. What matters least and most to you during the migration? So here you get a scale of 1 to 5. What I will say is minimal downtime can mean just as much to you as the migration tools available, for example. It doesn't mean one needs to be more important than the other. All I ask is that you don't make everything a 5. That's a great question. What is strongly disagree? That's a really good question.
Could you tell us what the last one is? We don't see it.
Yeah, I could tell you. It's just not there. I don't know. I'll have to go in and tell you afterwards. Rank this 1 to 5. We'll see what happens. It's on the, minimal downtime, feature parity, migration tools, training and onboarding, supportive responses. It just looks funny. Customization and continuity is this one.
Keep it as it is. We can manipulate the results
You can always explain that this was just broken.
Yeah, so minimal downtime takes the lead, which I think is pretty easy to support. So this is really good feedback. It helps us. We'll take this internally. I always make this plug, but I'll make it one more time. Please provide us feedback. We continue to use this feedback to help us develop the product more. And the best way to provide this feedback to all the product team here is through ideas.novacura.com. Thank you very much.